Cooler mornings and hints of autumn may seem like a far-off dream right now, but it is coming upon us fast. If you want to plant a fall garden, now is the time to start planning to set yourself up for success. If you've been thinking about planting garlic, now is the time to get your plan of action together. While this video is primarily about planting garlic, I'm also going to be talking about some important information on companion planting. This information will be important for planting your garden in general, no matter what season you're gardening in. So stay tuned for that in the second half of the video. October in southern Arizona is the perfect time to plant your garlic, but before you can do that, you need to choose the kind of garlic you want to plant and the company that you want to order it from. Many times companies will start taking orders for garlic as early as May and June, and then they'll ship it to you when it's time for you to plant in your area. It's best to get your order in a few months in advance because companies sell out quickly on the most popular varieties. As a new gardener, I was confused about when and where and how to plant garlic and what type to choose for my area. So I'm going to share with you all of the things that I learned through a lot of failure so that you can skip to the business of planting garlic without all of the frustration. The first order of business is deciding what kind of garlic you want to plant. You have two choices, hardneck or softneck. Let's talk about the differences between the two. Hardneck varieties of garlic are best suited to colder climates. If you live in an area that gets very cold during the winter, hardneck garlic is your variety. Hardneck varieties of garlic will produce those long, edible flower stems, which are called scapes. If you want to have garlic bulbs, you need to trim those scapes off as they appear, but don't worry, you can actually create some pretty scrumptious meals using those garlic scapes, as well as continue to grow the bulbs for later use. Just be aware that hardneck garlic does not store as long as softneck garlic. Now, if you live in a southern climate where it's warmer, don't feel like you can't grow hardneck garlic because you can. You just have to go through a couple of extra steps on the front end before you plant it, and that is exposing those garlic cloves to cold in the refrigerator for a period of weeks, and that process is called vernalization, but I'm going to cover that topic in a later video when I talk about all of the things you need to do to plant your garlic correctly. Here in southern Arizona, softneck varieties of garlic do better. They don't need that exposure to cold called vernalization. They have a much lighter flavor and they have a longer storage life than hardneck varieties of garlic. Softneck garlic does best in warm climates in general, not just in southern Arizona. So if you live in a warm climate, you might look at your softneck garlic options and decide to order that. But as I mentioned before, if you really have a variety of hardneck garlic that you want to try and you live in a warm climate, you can totally grow that as long as you expose it to cold before planting. I want to mention 3 companies that are options for ordering from. There are many companies, but these are just my top 3 picks. I love ordering garlic from Native Seed Search in Tucson. They carry the Purple Queen variety of garlic, which is an heirloom variety from Hermosillo, Mexico. Native Seed Search has grown this variety of garlic at their Tucson location as well as a location in Arivaca. So for all of you that love to order local, this is a great option for you. Another local option is called Forever Young Farms. They offer quite a few hardneck varieties, so just remember that you still can grow those if you're in a warm climate. They are a local company located in Amado, Arizona, so that's another option for all you local foodies. Another company that I want to mention is called Keene Garlic Farm. Keene Garlic Farm is not a local company, but I have had such great luck with them that I wanted to mention them. Keene Garlic Farm offers a wide variety of onions, leeks, scallions, and garlic. I've had really good luck with them. My orders always arrive on time, really clean, and with detailed instructions on how to plant the garlic for best results. Those 3 are my top recommendations. There are many companies that you can order from, which I'm sure are really good too. I just have had experience with these 3, so I wanted to mention them, especially the 2 local companies. I often get asked if you can plant garlic that you purchase in the grocery store. And while the simple answer is yes, you can try, I recommend not doing it. And that's because most garlic that's shipped to grocery stores around the country is sprayed with a growth inhibitor so that it doesn't sprout during transit or shipping. This treatment means that it probably will not sprout well in your garden. Another reason for not using grocery store garlic is that you're not really sure where it came from, and you don't want to run the risk of introducing any kind of soil-borne diseases into your soil at home. A third reason that I don't recommend using store-bought garlic for your garden is because you really don't know what variety you're getting. Is it hardneck or is it a softneck? Now, I can make an educated guess and say that it's probably a softneck, since softneck garlic stores longer than hardneck garlic, but you really don't know what variety it is or if it's going to do well in your area. I recommend that you save on all of that guesswork and you purchase the garlic variety that you choose from a reliable supplier. Once you choose the type of garlic you want to order, next you need to decide where and how much you're going to plant. You need to space garlic cloves 3 to 4 inches apart from one another, and you need to space the rows 6 to 10 inches apart. Now, 1 pound of garlic will give you roughly 70 to 80 garlic cloves, so when you're ordering your garlic, you usually can decide between a quarter, a half, or a whole pound. Some companies will give you just 1 or 2 heads of garlic at a time, so just do the math on the space that you have and decide how much garlic you want to plant. And do as I say and not as I do here, and don't over order. I always over order, but that's all right because I always find some place to plant the extra garlic. All right, we've talked about selecting the variety of garlic we want. We've talked about placing our order ahead of time. We've also talked about how much garlic we want to plant according to our space. Now we need to talk about how to prepare the planting beds before your garlic cloves arrive. Garlic needs 6 to 8 hours of sun every day. You can either set aside entire beds just for garlic, or you can use garlic as a companion plant by mixing it in with other vegetables you're growing in your fall garden. Either way is fine as long as the garlic gets 6 to 8 hours of sun every day and doesn't get shaded out by plants that it's growing next to. One common worry is that certain plants don't grow well together, and that's called companion planting. There are lots of rules about companion planting, but unfortunately most of those rules have not been supported by research. My only rule in the garden is that I won't say it's bad unless I try it. For example, I was told several times that growing sunflowers in my garden beds was a bad idea because sunflowers release a chemical called terpenes from their roots, and that would inhibit the growth of other plants. However, I decided that I was going to try it because of the potential for sunflowers to draw in beneficial insects and to provide shade to other plants. And what do you know? The sunflowers grew really well, even right next to things like tomatoes, with no bad effects. You may have heard that plants from the allium family, like garlic or onions or leeks, may not do well with other plants when combined in the same bed. But I say, remember that the research has not confirmed most of the rules about companion planting. You have the space that you have, so why not do some experimentation, and you may find that all of those plants work really well together. When it comes to companion planting, there are a few things that you need to keep in mind. Plants growing near one another must share resources. You need to keep the size of the root systems in mind, and remember that plants have to share nutrients and water when growing near one another. If you think of the size of root systems as shallow, medium, and deep, you'll get better results. Garlic is a member of the allium family, and members of the allium family have shallow root systems that occupy the first 1 to 2 feet of soil. If you want to combine other plants with your garlic, think about choosing plants that have more lateral root systems, like celery. Plants that have lateral root systems will extend their roots out from the base of the plant, but relatively shallow. Meanwhile, the garlic will be 1 to 2 feet below the surface. They will be occupying different zones in the soil and won't have to compete for resources as much with one another. Now let's think about planting something with a deep root system that can occupy the lower regions of the soil. Things like parsnips or carrots have deep root systems that will send that taproot down and will extract nutrients and water from that soil zone. So in this example, we have celery occupying the top portion of the space, garlic just slightly lower, and then our root vegetables like carrots or parsnips occupying the deeper root zones. And so you can combine plants and allow them to have access to nutrients in different soil zones. This can apply during any season of gardening as well. Think about things like tomatoes, which have a deep rooting system, things like lettuce, which have a shallow rooting system. And there are all kinds of things in between. So when you're planning out your garden beds, do a little bit of research on the size of the root systems of each one of your plants so that you can combine plants more intensively in the same beds and still get great results. Growing with root zones in mind will give you maximum production in a smaller amount of space. If you're growing in a small space, keep in mind that garlic does take a long time to grow and harvest. So if I plant my garlic in October, I am not going to be harvesting it until next May or early June. If you're growing in a small space, you may want to take my hybrid approach and mix your garlic in with your other plantings so that you can maximize the amount of things you can grow in your little garden. The next thing you want to think about ahead of time before planting your garlic is preparing the soil in the beds you're planting in. Garlic prefers fertile, well-draining soil. To prepare your soil ahead of time, spread a couple inches of organic compost over the top of your planting bed. Once you spread your compost, you can also add a balanced fertilizer and mix it into the top layer of soil. A balanced fertilizer is one that has an even ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So when you look at your fertilizer bag, you're going to see 3 numbers, and those 3 numbers should be nearly equal to one another. Sometimes you can find a balanced fertilizer that says 10, 10, 10, and that would be a balanced ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. When I first started my garden a couple of years ago, I had very hard soil. And that's a problem for a lot of Arizona gardeners because we have a lot of heat, not a lot of rain most times of the year, and not a lot of organic matter. I had to add a lot of organic compost and till it in to improve the nutrient content of the soil as well as the soil structure itself. Now my soil is really nice and soft, and when I grow carrots, they grow right through that soil and absolutely love it. Now that my garden has been built and my soil structure is healthy, I don't till my garden anymore. I believe in the no-till gardening system, which is not tilling from season to season. Instead, you spread a layer of organic compost over top, and over time, those soil networks will remain intact, and you'll have a much healthier soil that can hold water and nutrients much better. If you have a favorite garlic variety that you love to grow and would like to share that with us, please drop that in the comments section below, as well as any questions that you have about growing garlic. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.